yourself, not a stranger. The version of you that's running your life isn't yours. It was handed to you, built out of other people's fears, other people's rules, other people's flinches. And you've been wearing it so long, you forgot it was ever put on. That's not who you are. That's who you learn to be to stay safe. And here's the strange part. Most people go their whole lives never noticing the difference. They think their reactions are personality. They think their limits are truth. They think the voice in their head narrating every move is theirs. It isn't. It's a committee of ghosts. Parents, teachers, ex-friends, old humiliations, all voting on what you do next. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to spot the version of you that isn't yours, where it came from, and how to start peeling it off in layers, not through affirmations, not through pretending, through noticing. That's the whole method, because the self you're running on right now was mostly assembled before you were 10, before you had language for consent, before you could tell the difference between this keeps me loved and this is who I am. Your nervous system picked up on what got you approval, what got you shamed, what got you ignored, and it built a character around that data, a character that worked, a character that kept you safe. But safe isn't the same as real. And the version that kept you safe as a child is the same version quietly running your adult life. That's the trap. Here's the psychology behind it. Your brain didn't evolve to make you happy. It evolved to keep you in the group. For most of human history, being cast out of the tribe meant death. So your mind became exquisitely tuned to social feedback. Every raised eyebrow, every silence, every sigh from a parent got logged. Over time, those signals hardened into rules like don't take up too much space, don't need too much, be useful or be gone. You didn't choose these, they were installed. And once installed, they don't announce themselves. They feel like you. They feel like preferences, values, personality. That's the disguise. A belief you consciously chose can be questioned. A belief that got wired in before you had words just feels like reality, like gravity, like the way things are. So the question isn't whether you have a borrowed self. Everyone does. The question is how much of your daily life is being run by it and how much is actually yours. Most people never ask. They just keep performing the character and calling it identity. That ends today. Here's the first layer. Notice what you defend the hardest, the opinions you can't let go of, the reactions that feel automatic, the things you'd argue about even when nothing's at stake. Those aren't usually your deepest truths. They're usually your oldest programming. Real convictions are quiet. Installed ones are loud because they're guarding something underneath. Ask yourself, whose voice does this sound like? Not metaphorically, literally. When you catch yourself thinking, I could never do that, or people like me don't get that, pause and listen for whose mouth those words first came out of. 9 times out of 10, it wasn't yours. You inherited the sentence and started calling it a self-belief. Here's the second layer. Look at your rules, the unwritten ones, the things you'd never do even though nobody would stop you. Rest without earning it. Ask for help. Say no without explaining. Take up space in a room full of people who are used to you being small. If a rule feels like morality, but you can't remember agreeing to it, isn't morality. It's conditioning wearing a costume. Write one of those rules down, just one. Something like, I have to be useful to be loved, or if I disappoint them, I lose them. Sit with it. Don't rush past it. Ask when you first learned that was true. You'll usually find a specific moment or a specific person waiting there. That's not weakness. That's information. Here's the third layer, and this one goes deeper. Look at your fears, not the big obvious ones, the small everyday ones. The fear of a text going unanswered, the fear of taking a risk that might make you look stupid, the fear of being seen wanting something and not getting it. Those small fears are the fingerprints of the borrowed self. They tell you exactly what it's trying to protect, because the borrowed self has one job: keep you from getting hurt the way you got hurt before. That's it. It's not malicious. It's a bodyguard that never got told the war ended. Every time you shrink, apologize preemptively, or perform a version of yourself you don't like, that's the bodyguard doing its job, loyally, blindly, decades after the danger passed. And here's the hard part. You can't fire the bodyguard. It doesn't work that way. You can only thank it, understand it, and slowly show it that you're not that child anymore, that you can handle a raised eyebrow. That disapproval isn't death. That being disliked is survivable. That's how the borrowed self loosens its grip, not through force, through evidence. Here's the fourth layer, and this is the one most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Look at who you become around different people. Notice the shifts, the voice that gets higher around authority, the opinions that soften around your family, the silence that swallows you around certain friends. Each version is a mask, tailored to a specific audience, built long before you had a choice. That's not fake. That's not you being two-faced. That's a survival strategy, so old you don't remember installing it. But here's the question that cuts through it. Who are you when nobody's watching? Nobody's judging. Nobody's expecting? That version, quiet, unperformed, uninterrupted, is closer to the real you than anything you show the world. And most people never meet that version because they never sit still long enough. The borrowed self hates silence, is where it gets exposed. So it fills every gap with scrolling, with noise, with plans, with other people's problems, anything to keep you from noticing the gap between who you're being and who you actually are. So here's the micro action. Sit in total silence for 5 minutes today. No phone, no music, no task. Just you and whatever comes up. It'll feel unbearable at first. That's the borrowed self panicking. Let it panic. Underneath it, something quieter is waiting. That's the one you're looking for. Here's the last layer. And this is where it all lands. The real you isn't something you build. It's something you uncover. It's been underneath the whole time, buried under the rules, the roles, the fears, the performances. You don't have to become anyone. You have to unbecome almost everyone you thought you had to be. That's slower than a transformation. That's quieter than a reinvention. But it's the only version of change that lasts, because you're not adding a new self on top of the old one. You're finally letting the old one rest. You're telling the bodyguard it can stand down. You're taking the costume off, one seam at a time. And when you do, you'll notice something. The version of you that emerges isn't dramatic. It isn't louder or bolder or more impressive. It's just honest, present, unhurried. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't need to perform anything. It just is. That's what real feels like. Not fireworks, recognition. So here's what to do this week. Catch one moment a day where you feel yourself performing. Just one. Don't try to fix it. Don't judge it. Just name it. That wasn't me. That was the borrowed self. Then keep going. Awareness is the whole thing. The rest happens on its own timeline. If any of this resonated, the next video goes deeper into how to tell the difference between your real desires and the ones you inherited, because that's where most people get stuck next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Like this one if it hits something real, and leave a comment with the layer that landed hardest. I read them. The version of you that's running your life isn't yours. Not yet. But it can be. Not by becoming someone new. By finally meeting the one who was there all along.